What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 33 of Bringing the Heat. My name's Cody Pyatt. With me, as always, four-seam fastball co-host and Roscoe. Will, how you doing, man? Heard the puppy in the background. This is the best. How is she doing?
Doing good. It's been a busy week. Roscoe's up and at 'em early this morning, so it is all good.
Dude, early morning record. This is what I'm talking about. Claire and I going to a friend of ours' 30th birthday party tonight, which is when we usually record. So I said, hey, can we try and swing it in the day? So this is kind of new for us. I know we've done it a time or two before, but man, just tickled to have you on here, be back on here. How was your week?
It's been busy, but it's been good. Luckily, with the holiday, it was a 4-day week, so those are always nice. But definitely busy for sure. But hey, we made it through.
Aim into that, man. Aim into that. Hey, that's more than we can say for some of these teams. Okay, let's dive in. Where do we stand? Taking a look at the standings. A little bit more of the same in the AL East. You got Tampa in first at 40-18. Baltimore at 36-21. Yankees still playing good baseball, 34-25. And then Toronto and Boston in fourth and fifth. Notice Tampa Bay scared to play my Red Sox last night. They were praying for rain, and so they got it. So no game, but they'll play 2 today, I believe. In the Central, again, Minnesota creating a little distance. This is fun, man. 31-27, playing a good brand of baseball. They're in a series with Cleveland right now, and they took the first 2 from them. You got Detroit behind them, 3.5 games, and then Cleveland, the Guardians in third place, 25-32. Then White Sox and Kansas City kind of hanging out where they've been. A little bit of a change in the West here. Texas, 36-20, still doing their thing. Houston right behind them, 2.5 games at 34-23. Followed by Seattle at 29-28. And then the Angels and Oakland, still at 12 wins. Will, what do you got, man, on the American League?
Man, I don't know. I saw something the other day to where pretty much every Eastern Division team, if you transpose them and put them in just any other division in baseball, pretty much all of them would be first or second in almost every other division. Or if you put the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, who are currently fourth and fifth in the East, and you transpose them into the Central divisions in either the National or American, they would be either first or second. So I think that says a lot. The Central is really interesting. I'm still not much of a believer in the Twins, but they might be still the best team in that division. Yeah. That's really the one that who knows what's going to happen. Yeah. And then out west, man, the Rangers, I've said all along, I think they're legit. Obviously, Houston's going to be there. And I'm really just in the West looking to see, all right, who emerges between Seattle or the Angels, or are both of them just going to kind of falter? Right. And I feel like that's going to be a big storyline, and that's going to honestly what those two teams do, because I feel like Houston and Texas are both playoff teams, quite honestly. But what the Angels or the Mariners do is going to affect how many East teams end up getting in the playoffs. For sure.
No, like you said, Texas, man, they're looking good. Highest run differential in baseball at 133. They're plus 133. And they'll beat you anyway. They'll beat you with the bats. They won 2-0 against Luis Castillo last night. So I mean, that's a big arm to take down. And man, they're a complete team. And shout out to the ownership group who came in. Chris Young, I believe, is their GM. Came in and They paid a lot for that rotation, and it's really worked out. They found something special in Will Smith, and they are just a fun brand of baseball. I think I said the exact same thing last episode, but they're one of my favorite watches right now. In the East, like you said, more of the same. I think if Seattle or the Angels in the West don't perform, there's just going to be 4 playoff teams in the East, which hasn't ever happened, I don't believe, and that would be pretty wild. And then in the Central, wanted to make a point, if you saw it on the YouTube side of things, Liam Hendriks made his return to Major League Baseball. That man hadn't failed at many things in his life. He defeated cancer. Pretty awesome. We're really happy for him. May 29th came back and was back on the mound. And Will, did you see that video, man? He came out and it was dude's a rock star.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. I don't know. I think he's become kind of a fan favorite. I think obviously the teams he's been on, it seems like all the guys love him, all the fans love him. But now, amid all of this, and I think he's become more of a household name across the board for just general baseball fans, and it's pretty awesome.
Oh, he's the coolest. Thunder from down under, man. Australian. Hey, in the National League, let's switch gears a little bit, Will. Man, we're talking about 3 solid divisions.
Yeah.
In the National League. Got Atlanta doing their thing at 33-24, followed by Miami and New York tied for the second best record in that division at 30-28. And then Philly has really fallen off at 25-32, and they're tied with Washington. They're 8 games back, so that's interesting. In the Central, you got Milwaukee still hanging on at 30-27. They're a half game up on Pittsburgh, 29-27. So they're still doing their thing. You got the Reds at 26-31, and then the Cubs in St. Louis fighting it out. You know, usually that's a little bit of a rivalry. It's a rivalry for a different reason, Will. And then the West got a new top dog, or at least another dog at the bowl. You got the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Dodgers at 35-23. There's something I didn't have in June.
Yep.
The tie amongst the maybe I had San Diego and the Dodgers, but the Arizona Diamondbacks, man, they're doing their thing. Tied for first, followed by San Francisco. They've cooled off a little bit. They're 28-29, and then you got San Diego 26-31, and the Rockies 2 games back of them. So a little bit more of the same, but pretty awesome for the Diamondbacks. What do you got, Will?
Yeah, the West is actually really fun. The Diamondbacks, I think we said this on the last episode, or at least I did. The Diamondbacks have made a believer out of me. I really don't think they're going anywhere. When you look at that roster, in my opinion, it's a year or 2 early than I thought. I knew that they would eventually get good with how good some of their young prospects and stuff are. I just think they're a year or 2 ahead of schedule, which is pretty cool. But man, they're exciting. You take a look at that roster just really quick, and they have really everything you really want. They've got a true number 1 guy, in my opinion, and Zach Gallen. I think he's a top 10 arm in all of Major League Baseball now. I think he's established that. They've got a stud, young rising superstar in Corbin Carroll, who has obviously plays great defense in the outfield, but the power speed combination is amazing. They've got a power bat in the middle of the order. They've got Christian Walker. They've got Yoris Gurriel, who has figured it out in a big way. And they do a lot of the small things. I would love to see them at the trade deadline get maybe a bullpen arm to really shore up kind of that back end of the bullpen. But my goodness, outside of that, I think the Diamondbacks are legit.
They have that Miguel Castro as well, who's
good.
And he's been awesome. Lights
he's
out
good.
for them.
Yeah,
I didn't know he's 6'7". I didn't know he was 6'7". That's wild.
Wow. And Chafin hasn't been terrible. He's had a couple of blown saves, but he's been okay as well. So I just don't think Arizona's going anywhere. I don't think the Dodgers are going anywhere. I think the Padres have a big hill to climb. I'm not ready to say they're done by any means, but I tell you what, they better start getting their act together very quickly. Machado just got back, so we'll see if he can regain form. But man, they've got a hill to climb. Talking about the other divisions real quick, the Central is just an upside-down fruit basket. I have no idea, honestly, what is going to happen in the Central. We touched on this in the last episode. I think the Reds are the most fun team in that division now. I just don't know if they're ready quite yet and figure out how to win as much as they're going to need to this year. But I think the Reds moving forward are the team potentially to beat in that division, as crazy as that sounds. But we'll see what happens this year. I'm not sold on any of the teams this year, honestly, but we'll see. And then the East is just kind of more of the same. The Braves are going through a lot right now. They're not playing great, but they're still, I think, the best team in that division. The Marlins are way better than I ever thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets are showing some signs of figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm worried about the Phillies. I honestly don't know if the Phillies are going to make it this year. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but I'm worried.
Well, the thing with the Phillies, they're top end pitching. You know, those arms they rode to the World Series last year just haven't done it. Wheeler, Nola, even Suarez, Ranger Suarez, who kind of came out of nowhere the last couple of years, he's gotten hammered this year. I don't know, man. As far as I feel like that Spider-Man meme, have we talked about that? I feel like we have. A little Spider-Man meme, and they're staring at each other. Okay, so I feel like that's San Diego and that's Philadelphia, man.
Yeah.
And I think with 7 wild card teams, they're not really out of it, but my goodness, there's going to be a time where that division is just too far out in front of them to grasp. So they got to step on it, man. We're at the 1/3 pole, is what I read the other day.
We are, and
that's
you
not
think,
a thing.
And just to close the book on Philadelphia right now,
yeah,
think of all of their quote unquote superstars that are really struggling right now.
Yeah.
Trey Turner has not looked like himself. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's the contract. I don't know if it's a new setting. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I never thought we would see Trey Turner with this mediocre of a stat line a third of the way through the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you mentioned, the 2 stud pitchers that I know you and I going into the season, we love these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Wheeler was the best arm in the playoffs all of last year, pretty much. And he cannot find it. Yeah. Same with Aaron Nola. I don't know what's going on. And I tell you what, the Phillies aren't going anywhere if those 3 guys don't figure it out. Bryce Harper cannot carry that whole team in the NL East.
Nope. Can't do it. No, and, I kind of feel bad for Harps, man. He came back and he risked a lot, to be honest. He could have taken his time, and I don't know, dude. They got to go at some point, or does Rob Thompson? They start looking at him. Everybody loved him last year, and it just has not fallen their direction this season. I tell you who it has fallen the right direction for, Will, is our Heat Check Players of the Week, man. We got a couple studs here, dude. Take it away for me.
Yeah, I was debating back and forth between a few guys, and I'll be honest, I was gonna go Mookie Betts because he has torn the cover off the baseball this week. But we're gonna talk a little bit about him in our studs and duds section. So I'm gonna give a little bit of love. Speaking of the Phillies, I'm gonna give a little bit of love to a guy who has honestly, I think he would be probably the first person to say this. He has struggled since signing that deal with Philadelphia. But hopefully he's starting to figure it out this year. This year he's looked a lot more like himself. Yeah. This past week is evidence of that. But let's talk a little Nick Castellanos. This week so far, he's batting just under 500, 7 for 16. He's hit 2 home runs, had 6 RBIs so far in the week. And I tell you what, man, the just like what we were saying, the Phillies obviously need those superstars to step up like we were talking about just a minute ago. But Castellanos has to be good Castellanos in the middle of that order as well for them to really go on a run and try to secure a playoff berth in the National League.
Yeah, he's looked good, man. Numbers are, average of 311 this season. He's done that, one other time. In 21, he batted 309. But other than that, the average typically isn't there. Got a couple 290 seasons in there, I guess. But that is good because, he signed that deal. There's a lot of pressure on him to come over and perform, be part of that team and that winning formula. So I'm super happy for that guy. Always looks like he's having fun out there. Yep. My guy, former Red Sox great. You were talking about Mookie, and these guys are kind of in the same vein. They're both studs in 18. JD Martinez for the Dodgers. And I guess we all should have seen this coming. This is what the Dodgers do, right? They just take somebody and, they fix them. And he was hot last year with the Red Sox, but then really cooled off in the second half. But he has had one well of a week. 8 for 23. That's a 348 average. 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, 957 slugging. That's good for 1.341 OPS. dude's just connecting on everything he hits, and good for the Dodgers. They've been kind of looking for ways to replace Trey Turner, and if you like we were just talking about, I would say the argument is there. JD's had a much better season, so pretty cool. Still striking out quite a bit, but it's always good to see him have success. He was a big part of the Red Sox success for a lot of years, so lots of cool stuff there. Anything on JD Martinez?
Yeah, he's had a great week. He's really had a good third of the year so far, really. But man, that Dodgers lineup is really good. Even without Trey Turner, and I mean they're going to need it though. That pitching staff is really reliant right now on those young guys, and they're going to have some ups and downs. I know they've got a lot of talent, but they're going to be up and down. So that lineup, there's a lot of pressure on guys like Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Mookie, JD. Yeah. That lineup's going to have to score a lot of runs for the Dodgers to keep winning at the pace that they're on, given the state of that pitching staff right now.
Yeah. Hey, one thing on JD, man, 70% rostered. So if you're out there, and I mean, here's the big downside: he's util only. So that's pretty tough. And I think that's why it was available in a couple of the leagues. But I picked him up and just throw him in there, and it's worked out. I would say would not be a bad call right now.
Agreed.
Speaking of good calls, bad calls, Will, let's talk studs and duds, brother. Studs, duds, and spuds. We could throw a potato segment in there. That's what we could do. We're looking at second base. We did catcher last weekend. We looked at first base, and now we are transitioning to second base. Boy, this is when you look at this, a lot of it played out, I think, the way we thought it would. But there have been some guys who have really come out of the woodwork, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So let's talk about it. The studs. Let's start with 1-1, Marcus Semien. We projected him to be our first security blanket guy, our first set it and forget it in the fourth hole. And we have him currently the first overall second baseman. So dude has just been crushing it in Texas. I think this is what we all thought would happen. And, man, he's looked good. 294 average, 8 home runs, 44 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, and he scored 49 runs. Again, this is out of the leadoff spot. So pretty great year from him. What you got on Marcus?
Man, so I drafted him in our home league. And, Cody, if you remember this, because we did this on Zoom, basically an offline draft, but we were all on Zoom to where we could see each other. And at first I said Jose Altuve, and then I said, wait, let me change that. I'm going to go Marcus Semien.
I do remember this.
Boy, am I glad I did that. But I'll say this, and I'm trying not to be prisoner of the moment right now, given the state of the Rangers and how good Marcus Semien's been. But Marcus Semien might be still, as of right now, he honestly might be the most underrated star in fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
Because when you really think about it, obviously he's a great player in reality. But when you're looking at a fantasy star, he does everything. He bats leadoff, so he's getting the maximum amount of ABs of anybody. He hits in an incredible lineup. He steals bases. He hits home runs, and his average this year is 290 something. And so, I mean, he has been everything and more than I honestly expected him. I picked him early. But man, we might be looking at a fringe first, second round guy next year.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the first second baseman off the board, and I mean, right? Because you'll have Mookie, who I guess is the only one that you could put ahead of him, and maybe Altuve, but we'll see. I think Jazz is,
and I hate to say it, but Jazz is very quickly getting into the category of injury-plagued, injury-prone guys.
Yeah, he's kind of inching towards the Buxton of it all. And so we had, and we're going to talk about him in a second, so maybe I'll hold off. But back to Semien a little bit. Yeah,
he's been awesome.
complete package at a super weak position. So that's a really good. If you picked him, man, that's unbelievable because we drafted early this year. It was hard to get everybody on the call, and this was before Altuve got hurt. So man, how your team would have changed based on that decision is pretty wild. Speaking of guys who are pretty wild, Mookie Betts, man, we did not put him on our second base list, and here's why. He didn't have second base eligibility. But they had said before the season started that they were going to play him some at second base, and so we said, okay, here's a little caveat. If he gets it or if he starts the season with it, depending on what league format you play in, he's the number one second baseman. I mean, he is like a top 5 outfielder, so of course he'll be the number one second baseman. He is currently playing to the tune of the second best second baseman, averaged 266, 15 home runs, 36 RBIs, 3 steals, and he scored 45 runs for that really awesome Dodgers offense. What can you say about this guy? Just more of the same, huh?
Just more of the same. Just a guy that, we've talked about this a lot. There's so much value in when you get a guy, especially in those first 2 rounds, knowing what you're going to get. And that's exactly what you're getting with a guy like Mookie Betts. You know exactly what you're going to get. The average might fluctuate just a little bit, but it's always going to be very, very competitive and very good.
Yeah.
But, man, you're going to get power. You're going to get some stolen bases. He don't run as much as he used to, but you're going to get some. He's going to score a ton of runs setting the table for that Dodgers lineup. He's going to get plenty of RBIs. I mean, him and Freddie Freeman at the top, and Will Smith, I'll throw him in there. Those top 3 guys in that L.A. batting order, man, they
just high floor players.
That's as good as it gets, man.
Yeah.
And to your point though, like that you said earlier, second base, in my opinion, is even a little bit weaker, unfortunately, than I thought it was going to be going into the year, and we actually thought it was going to be kind of weak.
Yeah.
But second base is rough. And if you got Mookie Betts, he's basically a cheat code at second base.
Big time. Big time. Okay, here's another guy, dude, that I mean, we had our reservations about him just because the team he plays for, and we're talking about Nolan.
we liked the upside.
We love the upside. You're right, Nolan Gorman, man. We didn't have him on our list, which was a surprise to me. I think he maybe third base. I don't know. I thought I tossed him in the lotto ticket, but I guess I didn't. I know when we talked about it, it was kind of like, where is he going to fit?
Yep.
Where is he going to play? He was the big piece that a lot of people were speculating he would get traded for a pitcher in St. Louis. That didn't happen, and boy, are they glad. It's kind of like you talked about a couple weeks ago, how a couple trade requests, you're glad they never got accepted. I bet the Cardinals are feeling that way because this dude is a stud. A 275 batting average, 13 home runs, 42 RBIs, 4 steals, 23 runs scored. I mean, he doesn't play against lefties too often, but, you're going to see more right-handed starting pitching anyway. This guy has been everything and more for the Cardinals. What do you got, bud?
Yeah, you kind of said it. That was my major concern about Nolan Gorman, aside from potential trades, going into the season. But my biggest concern was they literally were going to sit him every time that a lefty, was pitching against him. And I tell you what, though, he's been so dang good. I think that they've kind of squashed that. And I mean, I think he's forced the Cardinals' hand, and he's an everyday guy, whether that's at second, third, or DH. I mean, he might occasionally get a day off, and it just so happens to be against a lefty now. But I think the whole platoon deal, him only hitting righties, is kind of done for at least the time being. So, but I mean, this guy, for the foreseeable future, he's probably going to lead all second baseman eligible guys in fantasy and home runs. He's got so much power upside, hitting in the middle of that Cardinals lineup. We've talked about how the Cardinals lineup is definitely not the problem. So he's going to get plenty of opportunities. And man, this is a fun guy to roster. I've got him in our podcast league, and he's just a fun guy to roster because you just never know. He could go off and hit 2 home runs any given night, drive in a bunch of runs, and he's in a great spot.
Dude, I'm looking at his advanced stats over here. It's The walk rate is high. It's like
Yeah.
top 80% in the league. I mean, that's awesome. 11.7 walk rate. That's gone way up since last season. Still strikes out quite a bit, but hey, we'll take it. 40% fly ball rate, 28% line drive rate. Those are both high. That's 90% on the line drive and a little bit over 60 for the fly ball. So that's awesome. And if you can lift the ball as hard as he hits it, you're gonna have success. So
Yep.
that's pretty cool, man. Honorable mention. Whit Merrifield, we kind of talked about this, and he was actually in our lotto tickets, hoping that he could have a bounce-back season for the Jays. He got traded midway in the season last year, got his COVID vaccine, and I don't know what happened. He just didn't do much for the Blue Jays, and he was kind of the forgotten man on that team the latter half of that season, last season. But he's come out and looked really good this year. 299 average, 2 home runs, 21 RBIs, 15 steals. That's the big one. So if you're in a roto league and can throw him in your middle infield spot, not a bad way to roll because it's going to help you big time on steals. What do you got on Merrifield? Anything?
Yeah, the biggest thing is looks like he's regained his form, kind of what he was known for in Kansas City all those years. Just a good, solid, pure hitter. You're not going to get a ton of power out of him. But as you mentioned, now that he's figured out the stolen base thing again, that's huge. Yeah. And obviously it doesn't hurt hitting in that Toronto lineup, but yeah, those stolen bases are big time. Big time.
All right, dude, let's transition. I hate to do it, but we got to. Let's talk some duds. All right, these are 3 guys that we picked to go a little bit higher, or at least we thought would perform better, and they just haven't. So let's just get rolling, okay? We got Jazz Chisholm. Where else to lead off at the second base position than Jazz Chisholm? We thought he'd be about the second best. He's currently playing to the 46th highest rated second baseman on Yahoo. By the way, little side note, I did a little research after the last episode because I forgot who it was, but I said they were playing like the 67th first baseman. Did a little research.
Jose Abreu.
That's what it was. You're exactly right. Oh, Will, you're the man. Okay, so what it does is it takes everybody who is eligible at that position and then ranks them. So it does make sense. I as I said it last week, it's like that sounds weird. There's only 30 teams. La 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 la. So anyway, peeling back to right now, 46th ranked second baseman. They moved him to center field, so I guess he's more of a center fielder now. Will, I don't know. But they wanted him to stay healthy, so they're like, let's get him out of the infield, move him to center field, and he
still gets hurt.
Yep, still tries to track that ball down, gets the turf toe. You know what? I'll be honest. I'm glad it was his toe because I thought it was his knee. I thought he was done for the year. It looked kind of akin to what happened to Acuna a couple years ago. Stats-wise, though, I'll hit on it and then pass the ball to you. 229 average, 7 home runs, 16 RBIs, 14 stolen bases, so that's pretty nice. But 16 runs scored, I mean, A, he's hurt, and B, you play for the Marlins, so you're not going to score a ton of runs anyway. What are we thinking on this guy?
Goodness. Here's, like I said, I hate to, talk bad about some of these guys. I really do. But there's 2 really bad things going on here as we're specifically talking about Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, and most importantly, the injury thing. Like what we talked about earlier. Last year was the back. This year it's, what is it?
His toe. Turf toe.
Yeah, turf toe. And I know that's a lingering injury, and that might just, even when he comes back, that might be something that lingers. And like it or not, as a young player, he is already showing that he just can't stay on the field. Yeah. And that's a problem, not only for the Marlins, but in fantasy. I mean, you got to have guys that are going to be are going to be in the lineup, especially guys you invest premium picks on. You cannot afford these guys to be just sitting in your IL spots, So that's number 1. Number 2, the strikeouts are a problem, especially against lefties. I mean, so let's just say he's healthy, 100%. I mean, you can't invest a second, third, fourth round pick on a guy who cannot hit a left-handed pitcher, you know? And so those are two major concerns I have. Now, is the power legit? Yes, when he's healthy, it is. Is the speed legit? Yes, it is when he's healthy. So, I don't know, you have to draft him and pray that he stays healthy, and that's not a great strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is such a good point for maybe a different conversation. But in fantasy baseball, you can get caught in dreaming too much. Like you dream upon a player that he's going to do X, Y, and Z. Like at the end of the day, that's why players like Freddie and Mookie are always going to be so valuable. Is because they just perform. Like it's a numbers game at the end of the day. And it's not a projections game. It's how much can you perform. And he's not on the field enough to do anything special. Under the hood stuff doesn't look that good either. I mean, 33% K rate. That's right up there with the likes of like a Christopher Morel or, just not good. Joey Gallo, So I don't know. You dream upon like a 40-40 season, and maybe he'll have it one day. He's 25, but it's looked tough out of the gates in 23. They said 4 to 6 weeks, so I don't know.
It's just really disappointing because, like, the Marlins need this guy to be their franchise. Yeah. And to be honest, if you watch him play, he is one of the most entertaining, fun guys.
Oh, yeah.
If you're just a baseball fan, he is really, really fun to watch. But, man, we need guys like that to be on the field. The fantasy stuff is secondary, but – man, just need to figure out a way to be on the field. Dude,
MLB The Show cover athlete curse, maybe, I don't know. Okay, moving on. This is another one of your guys. All three of these guys are kind of your boys, man. Andres Jimenez, we've said he'd be about the 6th best second baseman. Currently the 39th. Stats, 237 average, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, 7 stolen bases. Scored 24 runs. Again, you're talking about the Guardians, a team that has a worse offense than the Oakland Athletics.
Yep.
That's pretty tough. What are you thinking?
Man, this is the guy, when I look back on some of our preseason stuff, that I just and just internally, like, kind of through reflection and whatnot, thinking about, all right, who are some guys I really liked at the beginning of the season, both, that went really early, who I was really targeting mid rounds, and who I was really targeting late rounds. This is probably the one guy that I feel like I missed the most on, if that makes sense. I really thought that last year was kind of Andres Jimenez's coming out party. Yep. I was like, man, this is the guy that was highly regarded in the Mets system, and the Guardians got him as part of the Lindor deal. He's this young stud. He figured it out last year with a 2020 season, basically, and he's just going to keep getting better. And it's the exact opposite. He's gotten I haven't watched the Guardians as much as I've watched some of the other teams, but I've watched them some. That lineup just is anemic, man. It's like pitchers are sort of indirectly trying to pitch around Jose Ramirez. Yeah. Because they feel like that. I think he's the only guy that can really hurt them, honestly.
Well, I got something on that, Will, if you want to hear it, dude. He's the only Ramirez, J-Ram, only guy with OPS plus over 700. Everybody else is under 700, which is not great. I would say it's a shade below average, 700. Right. Like, you want to be closer to 8. He's the only guy above 7.
Well, and I think some of that, too, is even Ramirez. I think he's probably pressing because he knows that nobody is performing around him. It almost feels like Juan Soto finishing up in Washington. To an extent, but anyways, going back to Jimenez, man, it's been bad. A lot of uncompetitive at bats, a lot of weak contact, a lot of striking out. Just again, not at all what I was expecting going into this year. I thought he would, at minimum, kind of repeat what he did last year, and at this point, I just don't see it. So he's gone from a guy who I thought going into this year might be kind of a mid-round steal to a guy it's looking like going into next year is going to be kind of a late-round guy that you hope regains his form.
Yep. You hope it's his off year. Dude, other than the fact that he's just hitting the ball on the ground more, everything looks pretty similar. So that's enough to do it for a player who doesn't hit the ball overly hard.
Yep.
And he's just not lifting the ball at all. He's not taking any walks. He's in the first percentile of people in the MLB doing that. So I don't know. Maybe we'll turn it around. Like we said, not a lot of green on his RotoWire page. I'll tell you that. Last guy. This is a guy who we know can crank it out of the stadium, Will. Brandon Lau. We put him in the 23rd spot of our preseason rankings, and I actually ranked him 16th. I was hoping for a better year than where we ended up putting him on the sheet, but 36th is where he is. A 204 average, 9 home runs, 29 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, scored 26 runs. Dude, he always has kind of like a lower average, but if he can live around 240 with his homer pop like he did a couple years ago, and that's what I was banking on, it has not happened. As a Rays fan, what are you seeing from this guy?
Yeah, you kind of summed it up. I mean, I'll say this. When you look at that whole Rays roster, he's the only guy that's really underperforming.
Yeah.
Everybody else is overperforming to the max based on what, most people thought they would be going into the year.
Yeah.
And Brandon Lau, quite honestly, has been kind of the weak link. And to your point, he's never going to hit for a high average. He's just not that guy. But he was showing some encouraging signs early on in the year. I actually picked him up in one of our leagues, and I was like, okay. This is Brandon Lau from a couple of years ago, a guy who won't kill you in average, but especially at second base, he's an outlier as far as a power bat. The guy can hit 40 home runs. But, man, he's kind of regressed back into what he's been the past year or two. He struggled a little bit with some injuries, which is a problem. But, man, the average is bad. Here's what I'm afraid of, and I think this is pretty much playing out this year, is I was hoping he would be good enough to where he would not have to literally sit every time the Rays faced a lefty.
Right.
And he is proven to be that guy. Like, you can't play him if a lefty's on the mound. Like, you can't.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Rays, they know that. That's why they're as good as they are, one of the reasons. But for your fantasy team, it's a problem. And even when righties are on the mound, he's still not incredible. But he's not – you cannot put him in the lineup if a lefty's on the mound.
Yeah, and being part of that race team that is so,
stacked.
Correct. Stacked, and they like to play the righty-lefty game, and they look at the analytics a lot, and it's really served them well, especially in the regular season. I don't know. The
strikeouts are a major problem like they always have been.
They just are. I mean, he kind of is what we thought he is. We're hoping for more, and he just hasn't performed. But hopefully he can turn it around, man, and I don't know. At some point, you think they just run with Walls at second base because even if his average is down, he's running like his feet are on fire.
And he's incredible defensively. That's what the Rays love about Walls.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. Didn't even know that, Will.
And last thing on Lau, you'll remember this, Cody. I think this was, if I remember correctly, I think this was maybe the COVID year.
Yeah.
You remember, I think it was the shortened season. Rays make it to the playoffs, and they're playing at like the neutral sites. I think if I remember right, it was in San Diego.
Yeah.
And this is actually the year that I think they went to the World Series to lose to the Dodgers. This was the year Randy Rosarina, everybody figured out who he was because he was incredible that postseason.
Star was born.
Brandon Lau, if you remember, was the exact opposite. He actually had a decent year in the regular season and the shortened season, but in the playoffs, it's like he went into vapor lock. And ever since then, I'm not saying he was a superstar before then, but he was one of the Rays' better players, at least in the lineup.
He was their 3-hitter, correct?
Yes.
I mean, when he hit 40 home runs?
Yes. But ever since the Vapor Lock playoffs of whatever year that was, he hasn't been the same.
Yeah. Yep. That's so interesting that you bring that up. It'd be a guy to keep an eye on. I mean,
the Rays will trade him if he keeps it up. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, they're rolling without him, dude. At some point, I don't know, man. I hope he turns it around because he is fun. He's got the sweetest swing. He seriously does. I mean, it is a thing of beauty to watch when he connects. But yep, you're right. Speaking of rolling without people, we might have to roll without Chris Sale and Steele for a while. Mullins also went out, and so Will and I said, let's fire up the Who's on Fire on the Wire segment because we got to tell you guys who to go after, okay? We haven't done this in a while, and this is one of my favorites because you really, I mean, for our leagues, you get to take a look at who's out there and really take a deep dive, and then you can kind of reevaluate and pick some people up. So again, just touching on it, this is for these guys who go out, and you need people that are rostered. We go under 70%. And I'm going to throw some names your way. Let's start with starting pitching. You know, Justin Steele with the sore elbow, and then Chris Sale. He actually went to the IL. They're saying Justin Steele might just miss a start, but we'll see. I haven't seen MRI results yet, so we'll see. But Chris Sale is on the 15-day IL, and we'll see. Really bummer for that guy. Just touching on this as a Red Sox fan because he seems to be putting it together. So
yep.
I don't know. Hopefully he gets the rest he needs and comes back. We'll see. We need him. Starting pitching. Let's start with Logan Allen. 43% rostered. 2-2 for the Guardians this year. A 2.27 ERA. 1.31 WHIP. 43 Ks. Like we said, tough because you're not going to get a lot of wins when you don't get a lot of run support, and that's been his biggest deal. You got Bailey Ober for the Twins. He's 68% rostered. He looked real good since coming up from the minors this year.
Yeah.
3-2 with a 2.33 ERA. WHIP under 1, 0.97, and 40 Ks. Dane Dunning. There's a Texas Ranger that you never heard of. 60, not you, Will. I know you've heard of Dane Dunning. Just the listener. 60% roster. Also, listener, you may have heard of Dane Dunning. I'm not throwing shade. Let's see. 4-1 with a 2.06 ERA, 1.04 WHIP, 32 Ks. Jay Flaherty, let's talk about him. Jack Flaherty, 42% rostered in his last 5 starts. 1-0 with a 2.48 ERA. WHIP, a little high, 1.38, 28 Ks, 13 walks. But listen to this, home runs, 0.3 home runs per 9, so he's keeping it in the ballpark. And then the main man, Louis Varland, 25% rostered for your Twins, 3-1, 3.51 ERA, 1.15 ERA, 39 Ks. Who do you like out of that bunch, Will?
Yeah, it's a good list. All of them, especially if you're struggling on arms, can help you. But I would probably say if I had to pick one or two, I would go with the 2 Twins on this list. My first choice would be Bailey Ober. I think he's got a really good combination of he's going to have good ERA, good WHIP. The Ks are going to be there as well, which is important. Louis Varland, I like him as well. What I've seen out of him, the concern is, does he have a spot when they get fully healthy? Flaherty scares me just because he's still walking a lot of guys. Same thing with Logan Allen. The WHIP's a little high for me, but definitely keep your eye on those guys. And Dane Dunning, he plays on the best team out of all of these guys. So if you're just trying to kind of snipe a few wins, that would be maybe a guy you would target there.
I like it. Hey, did I hear Charlie get up?
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on her.
Okay, we'll keep rolling then. Hey, all right. Moving on to the outfield here. Here's some names to maybe replace Mullins. I think he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, Will, and he's had a great season. I know you just traded for him, so I was hurting for you, dude. It's going to be okay because we got a couple names out here for you. Lane Thomas, 65% rostered, a 2.83 average, 8 home runs, 28 RBIs, 36 runs, and 4 stolen bases. Newly recalled Jordan Walker, 62% rostered, a 269 average, 2 home runs, 11 RBIs, 8 runs, and 2 stolen bases. He's replacing Nootbaar on the IL, so we'll see. Austin Hayes, 51% rostered for your Orioles, a 310 average, 6 home runs, 23 RBIs, 28 runs, 1 stolen base. Brian De La Cruz, I know you love him, 50% rostered, 299 average, 7 home runs, 24 RBIs, 26 runs scored, 3 stolen bases. And then Taylor Ward, 241 average, 6 homers, 22 RBIs, 31 runs scored, 1 stolen base. Anybody you like there, Will?
Yeah, I would say out of these guys, I definitely, if he's available, wouldn't mind taking a shot on Jordan Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Jordan Walker's a guy who, at this point, if you're able to snatch him off of waivers, it's at least worth a shot, just due to the pure upside that he might have. But outside of him, I really, honestly, really like Austin Hayes, and I like Brian De La Cruz. I don't know why in the world these two are only 50% rostered, quite honestly.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that, let's just say some of the bottom teams in a lot of leagues can't use these guys. They've got high average, they've got power, they're hitting in the middle of their respective lineups. So, man, those two guys right now, they should be upwards at minimum of 70-something% rostered, in my opinion. So those two guys would easily be my top 2 choices, along with Jordan Walker.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, especially in 5 outfielder leagues, like, who's better than these guys? I really don't. I don't know. Brian De La Cruz, there's a question of playing time once Jazz and Jesus Sanchez comes back. But honestly, it's not going to be much of a question if he keeps playing like he's playing now. And obviously you have a team that's not offensively performing, so they're not going to put him on the bench. I guess your other outfielders, I guess he could hold down left field. I guess I was thinking of Jorge Soler, but he'll probably DH. So never mind. You should go out and grab these guys. Just looking at the list one more time. I like Lane Thomas a lot, man. Batting in the middle of that Washington lineup, and he's got some pop. I have him in a couple points leagues, and he's performed well. Doesn't strike out too terribly much, so that's always helpful in points leagues.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see the 8 home runs for him. He doesn't strike me as a guy that was gonna project for, he's on pace for 20 home runs or so. And
correct.
I didn't know that he had that in him, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I mean he'll steal a base here and there. So yeah, I like these guys. I think it's a good list. There's always people coming up, but it is interesting to kind of look at these guys. Austin Hayes of it all too. I didn't realize he was hitting 310. Yeah. I guess if you have an argument against him, you got the counting stats not looking great, but I don't know, hits average, that's helpful. Yeah, plays in a good lineup. So. All right, well, that's the show. We definitely don't have a Roman Candle Player of the Week this week. Just kidding. We do. But, guys, this is just starting to become like a satirical Cody's bad at picking people play baseball. Here's what – I'm just going to stop picking people because then they have bad weeks. Let's talk about it, though. Week 9 results, Will. You picked Masataka Yoshida, and thanks for doing that because he plays for my Red Sox. He went 7 for 14. That's a 500 average. 2 doubles, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 1.445 OPS. That's twice my guy, who is Ozzie Albies, second baseman for your Atlanta Braves. 4 for 20, 211 average, 4 doubles, 1 homer, and more RBIs than you had. So maybe we have a discussion here. I'm just kidding. Okay, so it's 4-0. That's fine. Sometimes you got to look yourself in the mirror, guys, and understand that it's going to be okay. You just have to get up and keep fighting. That's what we're going to do, okay? Will's up 4-0. It's going to be a beautiful comeback. That's what he said when we got on here, and I love it. That's what we're going to do. So let's do Week 10 picks, buddy. Who you got?
So I'm going with a former Red Sox here, keeping with the theme.
My heart.
We're going Xander Bogaerts. He has actually been struggling, as have quite a few Padres here recently. But here's the thing, man. We talked about this at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. It is now time for the Padres to really start stepping on the gas if there's anything in the tank this year, because Arizona ain't going anywhere, and the Dodgers are not going anywhere, and the Padres are going to have to get on a roll if they want to even have a prayer of the division. And that honestly might be a pipe dream at this point. It might just be, all right, where's the last playoff spot and how do we get there? But
Correct.
all that to say, the Padres have to get going. The lineup has to be better. Bogart signed a massive deal in the offseason. He's got to start producing more than he has. Hopefully, for my sake, this is the week that he gets going.
Yeah.
So I need to see a sense of urgency in San Diego. It's time. So, Xander, you're up.
Yep. They got to go, man. And for everybody who makes the excuse of it's going to a new team, a new league, blah, 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 blah. This dude just hits. And, you know, he might lack power. He might go long stretches without hitting home runs, but he will. I've never seen anybody just poke the ball to right field like he does. He does a great job doing that. Yeah, I love it. Sticking with the second base kind of theme of the whole episode that's kind of turned into. Ketel Marte for the first place Diamondbacks has looked really good this year. 278 average with 8 home runs and 23 RBIs, 6 stolen bases. Seems to really found his form. He had a great year in 19 and in 21, and now it's 2023. So don't draft him at all next year and then draft him in 25. Maybe he's an odd year player. I don't know. But I'm tasking him, with getting me on the board in the Roman Candle player to pop off of the week. I don't know what we're calling it, Will. Something
I like
fancy.
it. I think it's a good pick. I think you got a good shot next week.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna come on here with like party blowers if I win one. The little firework thing that you pop off at weddings. That would be cool. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, first time I win, we just do a big celebratory thing. That'd be exciting. Maybe I could figure out how to pump in some cool audio of people clapping or celebration. This is great. Lots of fun. It's my time, guys. Okay, hey, Will, that's what we got, dude. Anything to let the people know before we go?
I'll end with one quick tip real quick. So,
ooh, I love it.
I'm going to give you a quick nugget. So this week I challenge any of you guys, especially if you're kind of new to fantasy baseball, something that I've done for years and something that really helps me is if you go pretty much, whether you play in Yahoo or whatever platform you use, I challenge you, create a small, what I call a watch list. And basically what that is you can go whoever's on waivers in your league, whether that's a pitchers, hitters, whatever, and if you play in Yahoo, there's a star next to their name, and it'll have their stats and everything. Guys that you want to really keep an eye on, just click that star. And basically what that does is that will bookmark them, and then if you go to your watch list, they'll all populate on your watch list. And once I try to put about 15 guys on there that are hitters and another 5 to 10 on there that are pitchers. And essentially what that does is that gives me kind of a one-stop shop of guys that I have some interest in, and I just kind of keep an eye on how they're trending. And if you want to look at it this way, these are the guys that if I have an injury or if I have a guy that's super underperforming and I'm ready to drop them, these are my first guys that are up next, so to speak, that I would go and pick up. So that's just one, easy thing to do. If you get used to doing it, it'll actually probably be really helpful to you. So this week, go out and create you a few people on your watch list.
Dude, I love it. Will's tips and tricks for fantasy success. That's it. Hey, guys, we really appreciate you. If you're on the YouTube side, thank you so much. Great luck this week. If you're listening on audio as well, thanks for putting up with our crispy voices. We really appreciate you guys as well, and we love you. Until next time, thanks for listening to episode 33 of Bringing the Heat.